Hey there, and welcome. Before we dive in, do me a favor and hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't, and let me know in the comments where in the world you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. Ready? Good. Because we're not in the comfort of your home anymore. The year isn't 1347. You've fallen much, much further back. You wake up not just in the middle of winter, but a true Viking winter. A land forged by ice and iron, where every breath is a challenge, every single day a battle. The first thing you feel is the cold. Not just a chill, but an ancient, relentless claw gripping your very bones. It's a constant, deep ache that settles in your marrow. You're bundled in rough, thick wool and animal furs, but they only hold back the absolute worst of it, not the insidious bite that still finds its way through. Your breath plumes in front of you, a ghost in the dim light. The air itself tastes metallic, like old iron, sharp and utterly unforgiving. It scrapes at the back of your throat with every inhale. You push yourself up, the straw beneath you rustling, crackling with frost. Every movement is a protest from your stiff muscles. Your fingers, already numb at the tips, brush against the wooden plank of the sleeping bench. It's slick with condensation, icy to the touch. Outside, the low growl of the wind is a constant hungry sound, tearing at the thatched roof. It whistles through gaps in the timbers, bringing in fresh drafts of that frozen air. You glimpse a patch of frost glittering on the inside of the wall, almost beautiful in its deadly precision. Around you, shapes stir. Other bodies, similarly swaddled, begin their slow, reluctant rise. There's no rush here, only a universal understanding of the effort required. You see a woman, her face etched with lines of perpetual strain, pushing a strand of dark hair from her eyes. She doesn't meet your gaze, her focus already on the day's grim necessities. A child nearby whines, a low, miserable sound quickly muffled by a mother's hand. Even the animals huddled in their stalls at the far end of the longhouse seem to radiate a weary patience. Your stomach gives a hollow rumble. It's not just hunger, it's a constant, gnawing emptiness, a fuel tank running low. You need to move, to generate some warmth, but the thought of stepping out into that iron wind feels like walking into a blade. The floor beneath your bare feet is unforgiving, sending jolts of icy pain up your legs. You pull on your thick, worn boots, the leather stiff and cold. The raw, damp scent of peat smoke and stale bodies hangs heavy in the air. A familiar, almost comforting blanket against the external chill. You know what awaits you outside. Another day in a world that doesn't care if you live or die, only if you can endure. This isn't about survival of the fittest, it's about survival of the most stubborn. You realize, standing there, that life isn't a gift here. It's a relentless test, and simply enduring, day after day, that's the real victory. The heavy hide flap covering the longhouse entrance billows inward, a gust of air tearing through, chilling you instantly to the bone despite your layers. You push it aside, stepping out. The world hits you, a physical blow. The wind is a banshee wailing, a wild, unseen force that tries to rip the breath from your lungs. It's not just cold anymore, it's a living entity, an iron fist squeezing your exposed face. You instinctively hunch your shoulders, pulling your rough wool hood tighter around your ears. Snow, fine as dust, lashes at your cheeks, tiny ice needles that prick and sting. The sky above is a shifting, bruised canvas of gray, not just dark, but heavy, pressing down. It feels lower than it should, threatening, like a great beast about to pounce. Patches of sickly pale light break through occasionally, painting the snow-covered ground in fleeting, stark whites, only to vanish again, plunging the landscape back into deeper shadows. The horizon is indistinguishable, a blurred line where the land bleeds into the oppressive sky. Every gust carries the scent of something distant and wild. Pine, ice, and an undeniable raw earthiness. You need wood. Always wood. Your hands, stiff even inside thick mittens, grip the coarse handle of a small axe. The other hand balances a leather sling. You move, each step a deliberate effort against the wind's invisible resistance. Your boots crunch on the hard-packed snow, a surprisingly loud sound in the vast silence punctuated by the wind's roar. You see other figures, dark silhouettes hunched against the elements, moving with the same desperate purpose, their backs bent to the task. They don't look up, their gazes fixed on the ground, on the immediate need. The light is fading, faster than you remember it fading yesterday. The sun, a memory in these short days, is already a forgotten promise. The gray deepens, turning purple, then almost black in the crevices of the distant hills. You feel the urgency mount, a frantic pulse quickening in your chest. You spot a fallen branch, thick with frost, partially buried in a drift. You move towards it, sinking a little with each step. The axe bites into the frozen wood with a dull thud, the vibration traveling up your arms, a jolt of real pain. Each swing takes immense effort, your muscles burning, your lungs screaming for warmer air. You glance up again. The sky isn't just closing, it's collapsing. The first fat flakes begin to drift down, slow and deliberate, then faster, blurring the outlines of the distant trees, beginning to erase the world. You have to move, to gather what you can, before the storm swallows everything. The race is on, not just against the fading light, but against the sheer force of nature. It's a primal battle, a daily negotiation with a world that doesn't care about your comfort, only your will to keep going. The constant push against the wind, the biting cold, the fear of being caught out here as the snow thickens. It makes you realize how utterly small you are, but also how much strength you can find when simply living is the greatest fight there is. The moment you push through the heavy hide and step back into the longhouse, it's like walking into the breath of a dragon. Not the clean, sharp air of the outside, but a dense, living warmth that immediately wraps around you. It's a heat saturated with the deep, earthy smell of peat smoke, the musky scent of animals, and the undeniable tang of unwashed bodies. It's oppressive and comforting all at once. A thick blanket woven from everything living under this roof. The sudden change makes your eyes water slightly, and you blink, adjusting to the dim, flickering light. The central hearth glows with a fierce, hungry intensity, its flames licking high, sending sparks spiraling upwards towards the smoke hole in the roof. The air shimmers above it, distorted by the heat. Around the fire, people are moving, their faces ruddy and slick with sweat, despite the ongoing winter. You see a man mending a fishing net, his brow furrowed in concentration, the fine twine a stark contrast to his calloused fingers. A woman is grinding grain with a heavy stone, her movements rhythmic and tireless, the faint smell of crushed barley mixing with the other aromas. Their movements are quiet, efficient, a practiced dance in the limited space. Deep in the straw along the far wall, you hear the soft, steady breathing of the animals. A cow lows contentedly, a deep rumble in its chest, and the faint clinking of its tether reaches your ears. Sheep shuffle, their thick woolly forms radiating their own animal warmth, contributing to the overall mugginess. Their presence isn't just about survival through the winter. It's about heat. Their breath, their body warmth, is another layer against the external world's icy grip. You pass close enough to feel the rough, damp fur of a goat, its eyes dark and knowing in the gloom. Even with the intense heat from the fire, you can still feel the lingering cold in your fingers, a deep ache that hasn't quite thawed. Your neck, damp from the effort of gathering wood, now feels clammy against your tunic. You find a small space near the wall, away from the direct heat but still benefiting from its reach. You slump down, the worn furs beneath you, offering a meager cushion. The constant hum of activity, the low murmurs, the crackling of the fire, the sounds of livestock, it all blends into a single, reassuring symphony of survival. It's a stark contrast to the vast, howling emptiness outside, a crowded, breathing defiance against the winter's indifference. This packed, smoky warmth, shared with beasts and kin, is the very essence of existence here. You realize it's not just a shelter. It's a living, breathing organism, held together by shared breath and the constant struggle against the cold. And in its oppressive embrace, there's a strange kind of comfort, a potent reminder that you are not alone in this relentless fight. The air in the longhouse, once a fierce, comforting breath, now presses in on you, thick and inescapable. You feel it in the constant, almost imperceptible brush of someone's tunic as they pass by, or the subtle shift of another body on a nearby sleeping bench. There is no true privacy here, not anymore. Every low murmur, every creak of the timber frame, every rustle of straw from the bedding becomes a part of the collective rhythm. Your world has shrunk, compressed itself to the span of these smoke-stained walls, a single shared breath against the endless winter. The flickering light from the central hearth paints the same familiar faces and dancing shadows. Day after relentless day, you know the subtle slump in the old man's shoulders, the way the young woman braids her hair with practiced swift movements, the precise angle of a hunter sharpening his blade. Their lives unfold beside yours, a constant, unavoidable tapestry of shared existence. You catch a child's sleepy sigh, a low groan from someone turning in their sleep, a quiet cough echoing from the far end. These aren't just sounds, they're constant reminders of how many lives are crammed into this one space. Outside, the world howls, a wild, white fury that tries to breach the smallest crack. But inside, it's a different kind of pressure. The low ceiling, darkened by years of peat smoke, seems to hang heavier each day. The sturdy wooden posts that hold it up feel less like supports and more like the bars of a cage, sturdy but confining. You trace the worn grain of the bench where you sit, the familiar grooves carved by countless hands before yours. Every surface tells a story of constant use, of lives lived in close quarters. Even the scents, once a comfort, become an inseparable part of this confinement. The deep, earthy peat smoke, the sheep's wool, the damp leather, the faint, persistent smell of bodies. They mingle into a single pervasive aroma that fills your lungs with every breath. You close your eyes, and the world doesn't expand. It only intensifies, bringing the sounds and smells closer, more intimate. You are always aware of the others, their presence a solid, undeniable weight in the air. The world beyond these walls has become a distant, almost mythical concept. The vast, open skies, the silent forests, the biting winds. They exist only in memory, replaced by this tightly packed, living space. This longhouse, your shelter, has become your entire universe. And you realize, with a strange mix of resignation and profound acceptance, that surviving the winter isn't just about battling the cold, but about enduring the relentless closeness, the shared breath of your shrinking world. The air hits you, not with the familiar chill of outside, nor the peat smoke of the hearth, but a complex, sharp tang. It's a blend of deep salt, pungent fermentation, and a dry, lingering fishiness that clings to the back of your throat. You follow it, deeper into the colder, shadowed corner of the longhouse, where the winter stores are kept. This isn't just a larder. It's a living, breathing testament to foresight, a carefully curated symphony of preservation. Your gaze sweeps across the bounty. Hung from the rafters are long, leathery strips of dried fish, stiff and brittle, catching the dim light. They look like ancient, silent banners, their scales still faintly shimmering. The scent of them is potent, concentrated ocean, a reminder of summer's catch held fast against the lean months. You reach out, your fingers brushing against the rough, dried surface, imagining the texture as it softens in a stew. Nearby, heavy wooden barrels stand sentinel, their staves dark and damp. From within, a sour, tangy aroma wafts, the distinct scent of fermented vegetables, cabbage, root crops, undergoing their slow, transformative magic. You know that taste, bright and sharp, a welcome counterpoint to the salt and fat of winter meals. Along the earthen floor, stacked carefully, are hefty slabs of salted meat, dense and firm beneath their crust of white crystal. The rich, almost sweet smell of cured pork and beef mixes with the sharper notes of fish, creating an olfactory tapestry unique to this corner. You watch as an older man, his movements slow and deliberate, inspects a side of bacon, pressing a thick finger into its firmness, a slight nod of approval barely visible on his weathered face. His gaze is intent, knowing that the integrity of these stores means the difference between sustenance and starvation. You see a younger woman checking the brine in a smaller barrel, her brow furrowed, a faint sheen of worry in her eyes as she samples the liquid, with a cautious dip of her finger. The very air vibrates with the silent anxiety and hope tied to these provisions. You can almost taste the sharp salt on your tongue, feel the dense chew of dried meat, the tangy crunch of fermented cabbage. This isn't just food. It's a meticulously crafted bulwark against the winter's tyranny, a tangible representation of effort, patience, and the collective will to survive. The low hum of activity, the rustle of straw, the distant crackle of the hearth fire, all seem to fade into the background, leaving only the profound presence of these preserved gifts. It's a stark realization. In this world, life isn't about what you harvest, but what you manage to hold on to. The true wealth here is measured in salt, in smoke, and in the enduring art of making things last. A thin, watery gruel bubbles softly in the large iron pot over the hearth, releasing a faint, starchy aroma mixed with the ever-present peat smoke. It's not a welcoming, abundant smell, but a frugal one, stretched thin. You feel the familiar, insistent twist in your gut, a low-grade ache that has become a constant companion. It's the arithmetic of hunger, played out silently around the fire. You watch as the elder woman, Her face, a map of countless winters, approaches the pot. Her movements are slow, deliberate, each scoop a precisely measured act. Her eyes, sharp and unwavering, scan the faces gathered, not in judgment, but in an unspoken calculation of who is present, who needs what. There's a seriousness in the air, a hushed reverence for this daily ritual of distribution. No one speaks, no one jostles. Every gaze is fixed on the ladle, on the precious mouthfuls it delivers. When your turn comes, you extend your small wooden bowl. The portion she gives you is modest. A single ladleful of the warm, grayish mixture. It steams faintly in the cool air of the longhouse. You feel its warmth seep into your chilled fingers, but your eyes already measure it, weigh its fleeting presence. You know instinctively that it will quiet the most urgent pangs, but it won't truly satisfy. You feel the communal gaze on your own bowl, the unspoken understanding that everyone's share is the same, everyone's hunger is shared. You retreat to your spot, the spoon scraping softly against the wood as you eat. Each mouthful is savored, a conscious act of consumption, not just for pleasure but for fuel. You can taste the faint bitterness of dried herbs, the grainy texture of the oats. It's warm, it's sustenance, but it's never enough. Your mind, even as you swallow, is already making calculations. How many more meals like this until the light starts to truly lengthen? How much longer until the stores might truly dwindle? You glance at the others. A young man gnaws slowly on a small, hard piece of dried fish, his jaw working with intense focus. A mother carefully breaks off a tiny scrap of her ration to give to a child, whose eyes, wide with hope, never leave the food. There's a subtle tension in the air, a quiet vigilance. Everyone is aware of the finite nature of what's available, of the long, cold weeks ahead. The hunger isn't just in your stomach. It's a constant whisper in your mind, a shadow cast over every waking moment. In this world, food is not a pleasure, but a carefully managed resource, a daily testament to endurance. You realize that true hunger isn't just an empty feeling. It's a deep, pervasive awareness that reshapes your entire existence, turning every meal into a careful, precise arithmetic of survival. The first sensation isn't the biting cold or the comforting peat smoke, but the perpetual dimness that has become the world's default state. You open your eyes, but the world doesn't lighten. It's a muted, grayish gloom, not true darkness, but an endless twilight that bleeds one day into the next without clear distinction. Your eyes strain, always searching, always feeling slightly out of focus. Every object, every face, appears softer, less defined, as if viewed through a perpetual haze. The heavy air inside the longhouse seems to absorb what little light manages to filter through the smoke hole and gaps in the thatch. The flickering hearth fire, usually a beacon of warmth, now feels like the only true source of illumination, casting long, dancing shadows that make familiar corners seem strange, almost menacing. You find yourself squinting even at nearby faces, trying to discern expressions, to catch the subtle shifts in mood that direct unspoken communication. It's tiring, this constant effort to simply see. Time here isn't measured by the sun's arc, but by the fire's dying embers, by the rumble of your stomach, by the ache in your joints that signifies another weary cycle. Your internal clock feels utterly broken, stretched thin and distorted. Was that dawn or dusk? Had you slept for hours or mere moments? The questions linger, unanswered, making every waking moment feel like a continuation of the last, a blurring of beginnings and endings. You see it in the eyes of others, too. A dullness, a slowness of blink, a persistent weariness that no amount of sleep seems to cure. Heads nod off during tasks. Hands pause, drifting into stillness. The lack of true daylight weighs on everything. Even the sounds of activity are dampened, as if the oppressive gloom muffles them. The scratch of a knife on wood, the low murmur of voices, the shifting of animals. They all sound as though heard from behind a thick curtain. You feel a subtle lethargy seep into your own movements, a sluggishness that isn't entirely physical. It's a mental fog, a constant dull ache behind your eyes, a quiet longing for a brightness that never truly arrives. You find yourself gazing towards the longhouse entrance, not expecting sunshine, but perhaps a fleeting promise, a hint of something more than this unending gray. This isn't just a lack of light. It's an erosion of spirit. The sunless hours don't just darken the world. They darken the very corners of your mind, making every task heavier, every thought cloudier. You realize with a heavy heart that the true tyranny of winter isn't just the cold or the hunger, but the relentless, inescapable absence of light, chipping away at the very essence of what it means to be awake and alive. The central hearth still glows, but its light seems to draw the shadows in rather than push them away. You find yourself staring into the dancing flames, and in their hypnotic flicker, the familiar timber walls of the longhouse begin to subtly shift, to distort. What was a sturdy beam now seems to twist, a knot in the wood appearing, for a fleeting moment, like a watchful eye. The hanging firs sway almost imperceptibly, and in the corner of your vision they take on the semblance of hunched figures, silently observing. Your mind, starved of clear distinctions, starts to fill the gaps, painting illusions in the gloom. This isn't just the physical dullness you felt before. This is deeper, a quiet invasion of your thoughts. The endless twilight outside, combined with the dense, shared air inside, creates a peculiar kind of mental fog. Your thoughts drift, becoming untethered, circling back on themselves. You find yourself replaying conversations, or simply staring at a patch of woven basketry, losing minutes, perhaps hours, in a haze of contemplation. The boundaries between yesterday and today, between the present moment and a distant memory, begin to blur. A low creak of the longhouse timbers, settling in the cold, becomes magnified in the silence that often descends between bouts of activity. You strain your ears, trying to discern if it was merely the wood or something else. A whisper? A footstep? Your senses are heightened, yet simultaneously dulled by the lack of clear input. Every distant rustle from the animals, every sigh from a sleeping neighbor, seems amplified, carrying an unsettling weight. You feel an almost physical pressure in your head, a quiet hum that isn't external, but rather the sound of your own mind working too hard to make sense of the unchanging, sunless world. You watch the faces around you. Many wear the same mask of quiet introspection, their eyes glazed, focused inward on their own struggles. The usual boisterousness, the occasional laughter, the storytelling that once filled the dark evenings, has receded, replaced by a subdued, almost heavy silence. It's as if everyone is battling their own personal shadows, dancing just beyond the reach of the firelight. You yearn for a sharp sound, a sudden burst of activity, anything to break the monotonous drone of your own thoughts, but the world inside is as muted as the world outside. This isn't just surviving winter, this is surviving your own mind in the face of endless gray, an insidious battle against the encroaching stillness. You realize that sometimes the greatest challenge isn't the raging storm outside, but the quiet, relentless storm brewing within, as shadows begin to dance on the walls of your own thoughts. You push aside the heavy hide flap, expecting the familiar shriek of the wind, the biting lash of snow. But what greets you isn't a roar or even a whisper. It's an absence, a profound, almost spiritual silence that swallows every sound, cushioning the world in an unnerving stillness. It presses in on your ears, a weight you can almost feel, as if the air itself has grown impossibly dense. You step out, and the snow is everywhere. Not just a dusting, but deep, sculpted drifts that have transformed the familiar landscape into something entirely new, soft and utterly muted. Every surface is rounded, smoothed over, as if the world has been dipped in a thick white glaze. The trees, their branches heavy with pristine powder, stand like silent sentinels, their usual rustling voices completely stilled. The distant hills are no longer sharp peaks, but gentle, ghostly curves against the pale, diffused light. Your own breath sounds incredibly loud, a sharp hiss of air in your lungs. When your boot sinks into the fresh snow, the crunch feels monumental, echoing in the vast quiet. Each step is deliberate, measured, as if you're afraid to break the delicate spell. The air is so still, so incredibly clear, that it pricks at your nostrils, an almost painful cold that has no accompanying wind to carry it away. It's a dry, sharp cold that makes your eyes water, and the tears feel like they freeze instantly on your lashes. You look around. Other villagers are moving, perhaps to check traps or dig paths, but their figures are like silent actors on a stage. You see a man clearing snow from a low-shed roof, his movements careful, almost slow motion. The shovel scrapes, but the sound barely travels, deadened instantly by the thick blanket. Even the distant barking of a dog, usually sharp and clear, is muffled, a vague, far-off thrum, like a heartbeat heard from deep underground. It's as if you're listening through a layer of thick wool, the entire world wearing earplugs. This isn't the quiet of an empty room. It's a living silence, heavy and pervasive, a testament to the sheer, overwhelming power of the snow. It wraps around you, isolates you in your own thoughts, magnifying every internal sound, every beat of your own pulse. You find yourself speaking in a low whisper, almost unconsciously, as if a louder voice would be an act of sacrilege against this immense white hush. In this snow-drowned world, the silence isn't just a lack of noise. It's a profound, tangible presence. It reminds you that sometimes the most overwhelming force of nature isn't its fury, but its ability to quiet everything, leaving you alone with the vast, stark beauty and the deep, enduring quiet of winter. You stand at the edge, the profound silence of the snow-drowned land still pressing in. But here, over the frozen fjord, a new sound begins to emerge. It's not a violent crack, not yet, but a deep, resonant hum, a low groan that seems to vibrate up from the earth itself, through the thick ice beneath your worn boots. It's an ancient, living sound, like the slow, protesting breath of some colossal buried beast. You take a tentative step onto the frozen surface. The cold instantly radiates through the soles of your boots, a raw, uncompromising chill that goes straight to your toes. The ice underfoot is a vast, gray expanse, rough with frozen rime in places, polished smooth as dark glass in others. In its clearest patches, you can peer down, a disorienting glimpse into the murky, still water trapped below, dark and mysterious, full of unseen depths. The thought of that water, so close, yet so utterly out of reach, sends a shiver through you. Then it happens again. A louder, sharper asterisk thrum, asterisk, followed by a long, drawn-out asterisk gruen asterisk that rises in pitch, then fades. It's the ice shifting, expanding, contracting, a constant, imperceptible movement under the weight of the cold. You feel the tremor through your feet, a subtle vibration that sends a prickle of unease up your spine. It sounds as if the very world is whispering, a language of tension and release, of incredible pressure contained by a fragile, shifting skin. You see a group of men already out there, spread thin across the expanse. They move with careful, practiced steps, their axes poised. They're fishing, cutting holes, trusting this booming, groaning surface with their lives. You watch one man, his breath a white plume, as he brings his axe down. The impact creates a dull, heavy feed that then seems to travel outwards, joining the subterranean symphony of creaks and murmurs. He doesn't flinch, doesn't even look up. This sound is just another part of his brutal, beautiful existence. The wind here is gentler, a sigh rather than a shriek, but the cold is more penetrating, rising from below. You lean forward, listening intently. There are sharp, almost metallic pings, like countless tiny bells ringing deep beneath your feet. And then, a deeper, more profound sound, a long, low WH2MPH, as if a vast, unseen hand has pressed down on the entire surface. You instinctively shift your weight, your heart giving a quick, nervous jump. This is the sound of the frozen world alive, a constant, eerie dialogue between ice and water. It's a powerful reminder that even in stillness, nature is never truly quiet, always moving, always exerting its immense, indifferent power. You realize that to survive here, you must learn to listen to its strange, unsettling songs, to understand the rhythm of what groans and creaks beneath your feet. The familiar warmth of the longhouse is there, thick with peat smoke and the scent of damp wool, but now, cutting through it all, is a new, unsettling rhythm. It's a dry, hacking sound, a sharp, ragged intake of breath followed by a deep, chesty expulsion, a cough, then another, and another. Not just one person, but a scattered chorus, like pebbles rattling in a hollow gourd, echoing off the timber walls. You feel a subtle tightness in your own chest, a sympathetic constriction. You scan the faces around the central hearth, lit by the flickering fire. Many are pale, their eyes a little too bright, a little too watery. You see a young woman try to suppress a cough, her shoulders hunching inward, a hand pressed to her mouth, but the sound escapes anyway, a wet, miserable gasp. Her eyes dart nervously around, as if apologetic, as if illness itself is a burden she shouldn't inflict. An old man, already frail, sits propped against the wall, his breathing shallow, punctuated by a rasping, relentless cough that shakes his entire frame. Each episode leaves him gasping, his thin shoulders trembling. The air, usually a source of comfort, now feels heavy, almost viscous. Every breath you take seems to draw in not just smoke and warmth, but also the invisible particles of everyone else's struggle. You feel a faint tickle at the back of your throat, a phantom irritation, and you clear it instinctively. The constant, low drone of the coughs becomes a part of the longhouse's soundscape, a grim background melody to the crackle of the fire and the low murmurs of conversation. No one needs to speak of it. The illness is a shared, silent presence, an unwelcome guest settling in. You recall the taste of a bitter herbal tea you drank yesterday, an attempt at prevention, or perhaps just a desperate plea to the spirits. It did little, you suspect, against this insidious enemy. You pull your furs a little tighter, an unconscious gesture of defense, though you know it offers no true protection. You watch a mother wipe the brow of her feverish child, her movements slow and tender, her face a mask of worry. She catches your eye, a brief, shared glance that speaks volumes about the vulnerability they all feel. This isn't just about surviving the external cold anymore. It's about surviving the invaders within. The rasping coughs, the heavy breathing, the quiet despair in the eyes around you, it all paints a stark picture of the relentless winter's true toll. It's not just the external elements that threaten life, but the silent, unseen enemies that seep into the very warmth meant to sustain you. And you realize, with a chilling certainty, that in this harsh world, illness is not just a discomfort, it's a silent, ever-present predator, waiting for any sign of weakness. A new smell has begun to permeate the longhouse, subtle at first, but now it's distinct, heavy, and undeniably unnerving. It's the cloying, faintly sweet odor of sickness, of a body fighting a losing battle. It cuts through the familiar peat smoke, mingling with the damp wool and animal warmth to create a sickly, almost metallic tang that catches at the back of your nose. It is the smell of fever. You find yourself drawn, almost against your will, towards a quiet corner where a small child lies on a bed of furs. Their skin is unnaturally flushed, a vibrant, alarming red against the pale straw. Their breath comes in shallow, ragged gasps, small whimpers escaping their lips with each exhale. You can almost feel the heat radiating from their tiny body, a desperate, contained fire consuming them from within. The air around them feels charged, thicker, carrying the potent scent of their struggle. Kneeling beside them, a woman, the child's mother, sits in a posture of utter stillness. Her face is drawn, streaked with what might be tears, or simply the dampness from the oppressive longhouse air. Her eyes are wide, fixed on the child, holding a terrible, silent intensity. You can see the dark circles beneath them, the telltale sign of endless, sleepless nights spent watching, waiting, praying. Her hand, work-worn and calloused, rests gently on the child's forehead, not stroking but simply resting, as if trying to physically absorb the heat. You can almost feel the burning warmth through her touch, even from a distance. She doesn't speak. There is no desperate pleading, no dramatic cries, just this profound, paralyzing helplessness. She lifts a corner of a damp cloth, pressing it to the child's lips, offering a few drops of precious water, her movements slow, precise, utterly devoid of hope. Her shoulders are slightly hunched, as if bearing an unbearable weight. You see another woman approach, offering a small dried root, a folk remedy. But the mother barely registers the gesture, her gaze never leaving her child. It's a silence heavier than any storm, more deafening than any wail. The world outside, with its biting wind and endless snow, seems distant, irrelevant. Here, within these smoky walls, a silent battle is being waged, and you feel the raw, visceral pain of witness. This isn't just a child's fever. It's a testament to the immense, crushing powerlessness that shadows every life in this harsh, unforgiving winter. And you realize, with a heavy heart, that sometimes the most profound suffering isn't loud or dramatic, but a quiet, agonizing vigil in the face of an enemy you cannot see, cannot fight, and cannot defeat. The ache is a constant companion now, a dull throb that settles deep in your joints, in the marrow of your bones, a persistent whisper of cold and damp. You feel it as you shift your weight on the rough wooden bench, a protest from your knees and hips. It's not a sharp, sudden pain, but a pervasive, weary soreness that makes every movement feel burdened, as if your limbs are filled with lead. Your muscles, perpetually tense from the cold, feel dense and unyielding. You lift your hands, turning them over in the dim light of the longhouse. They are raw, reddened, the skin chapped and cracked in places, particularly around the knuckles where the cold wind has bitten deepest. Your fingernails are often broken, chipped from wrestling with frozen ropes or unforgiving wood. You spot a thin, dark line at the base of your thumb, a fresh splinter, lodged deep from the kindling you gathered this morning. You try to dig it out with the edge of a blunted knife, but your fingers are stiff, slightly swollen, and the attempt only causes a sharp, localized sting, quickly absorbed by the background ache. The constant dampness, the endless cycle of being cold, then warmed by the fire, then chilled again, seems to prevent any small wound from truly healing. Every simple task is an exercise in managing discomfort. When you grasp the handle of a wooden spoon, your palm, crisscrossed with old calluses and fresh scrapes, feels the coarse grain. When you reach for a piece of dried meat, your fingertips, perpetually cold, struggle to articulate. You flex them, watching the tendons stretch beneath the reddened skin, and hear a faint, dry crackle, like old branches in the wind. This is the body talking, a weary lament for warmth and rest. Around you, you see similar evidence of this relentless physical toll. An older woman winces as she tries to thread a needle, her knuckles swollen and gnarled, her eyes betraying a deep fatigue. A young man, strong and usually agile, rubs the small of his back with a slow, grinding motion, a grimace flickering across his face. No one speaks of these small, persistent pains, but they are understood, a shared language of endurance etched onto every body, every movement. You feel the weight of this collective burden, the sheer physical effort of simply existing through another day. This isn't about grand injuries or heroic battles. This is about the quiet, insidious erosion of comfort, the accumulation of countless small wounds and perpetual aches. You realize that in this winter, your body isn't just a vessel, it's a tool, hammered and worn, enduring a constant, silent war, where the enemy is simply the harsh reality of living itself. And every splinter, every dull throb, is a testament to its stubborn, unending fight. The small, steady flame of the oil lamp casts a surprisingly strong, yet intimate pool of light on the worn leather in your hands. It flickers with a soft pop, releasing the faint, distinct smell of rendered animal fat, a scent that is both practical and oddly comforting in the pervasive gloom. This isn't the roaring, all-encompassing light of the central hearth, but a focused, tenacious beacon, creating a small, bright island in the vast, encroaching darkness of the longhouse. You thread a heavy needle with gut string, your fingers, still stiff and aching from the day's cold, working slowly, meticulously. The leather tunic you're mending is old, softened by countless wearings, but now it boasts a fresh tear along the shoulder, a nasty rip from snagging on a jagged tree branch earlier. The edges are rough, fibrous. You press the needle through, the tough material offering resistance, then pull it back with a small snick. Each stitch is deliberate, careful, not just patching, but reinforcing, giving new life to what is worn and damaged. This isn't just clothing. It's a shield against the elements, a precious layer. Around you, others are similarly engaged in their own quiet battles against decay. An old woman, her face deeply lined, hunches over a fishing net, her hands, gnarled with age, moving with a surprising speed as she reweaves broken strands, her eyes sharp in the lamplight. You hear the faint, rhythmic scrape of a whetstone as a man sharpens a knife, the sparks momentarily glinting in the low light. The sounds are small, precise, a testament to the focused concentration of hands and eyes. No one speaks, yet there's a shared understanding, a collective will to defy the forces that seek to break and consume. The heat from the hearth barely reaches this far corner, but the concentrated effort, the tiny circle of light, creates its own kind of warmth. You feel the constant pull of the string, the dull pressure against your thumb as you guide the needle. Your eyes ache slightly from the strain, from focusing so intently in the dimness, but you don't waver. To waste material, to abandon something repairable, is unthinkable. Every fiber, every tool, every resource must be coaxed to its maximum lifespan. You hold the patched tunic up to the lamp, inspecting your work. The stitches are tight, strong, a visible testament to your patience. The tear is gone, replaced by a line of purposeful mending. This quiet, repetitive act of repair, performed again and again in the soft glow of the lamp, becomes a rhythm against the winter's relentless assault. This isn't just fixing things, this is an act of defiance, a quiet, persistent refusal to surrender to the harshness of the world. You realize that sometimes the greatest strength isn't found in grand battles, but in the stubborn, everyday resilience of mending what is broken, making it last, and finding meaning in the enduring power of human hands. The wind outside isn't just howling tonight. It's a frantic, desperate shriek, clawing at the longhouse walls, trying to rip the thatch from the roof. You feel the timbers vibrating faintly beneath you, a low tremor that matches the frantic beat of your own pulse. The sound is relentless, a wild, untamed beast unleashed in the darkness. But then, cutting through its fury, a different sound begins to rise, steady and resonant. It's the voice of the skald. He sits by the central hearth, his face illuminated by the dancing flames, deep lines etched around his eyes. His voice isn't loud, but it carries, rich and deep, weaving tales into the smoky air. It's a voice that seems to pull the very fabric of the longhouse closer, holding everyone rapt. You feel yourself drawn in, your eyes fixed on him, on the subtle shifts in his expression, the deliberate gestures of his hands as he shapes his words. The raw power of ancient sagas fills the space, pushing back against the encroaching night. Around you, every face is turned towards the skald. The usual restless stirrings, the low murmurs, the quiet work of mending nets or carving wood has ceased. Even the children, usually fidgeting, sit wide-eyed, their small bodies pressed close to their parents. You can feel the collective breath held, then slowly released, in unison with the narrative's ebb and flow. Their eyes, once dull with the constant gloom, now sparkle with reflected firelight and the vivid images the skald paints. He speaks of distant lands, of mighty heroes, of fierce battles and strange gods, and, for a time, the cramped, smoky longhouse expands, becoming a stage for epic deeds. The chill drafts from the wall gaps still find you, but they seem to lessen their bite, absorbed by the warmth of shared attention. The hunger in your belly still gnaws, but it quietens. Overshadowed by the hunger for story, the skald's voice rises and falls, a rhythmic chant that carries you far beyond these walls, beyond the endless winter. You can almost feel the spray of a longship's prow, the crunch of snow under a warrior's boot, the heat of a forge. The vividness of the world he conjures is a powerful magic, a temporary escape from the bleak reality. The wind outside continues its mournful song, a stark counterpoint to the vibrant world unfolding within the longhouse. It bangs against the hide door, a reminder of the darkness and cold that waits. But for now, you are safe, bathed in the warmth of the fire, held captive by the sheer, undeniable force of human imagination. The skald pauses, his gaze sweeping over the silent, eager faces. Then he smiles, a glint in his eye, and begins the next verse. This isn't just entertainment, it's sustenance for the soul, a defiant spark against the all-consuming dark. You realize that even when the body is cold and weary, the mind can still soar, lifted by the incredible power of a story, a shared journey to a world beyond the winter. The heavy, sweet aroma, thick with honeyed fermentation, hits you first, cutting through the usual omnipresent peat smoke and the damp, earthy scent of the longhouse. It's a scent of celebration, or at least of temporary reprieve. You reach out, your fingers closing around the smooth, cool curve of a drinking horn, its polished surface a pleasant contrast to the warmth that promises to soon spread within. You lift the horn to your lips. The mead is thick, almost syrupy, and the first taste is a glorious explosion of sweetness, a sticky, rich honey flavor that coats your tongue. Immediately, a deeper, fiery warmth blooms in your throat, a potent alcoholic burn that quickly spreads through your chest and down into your limbs. It chases away some of the persistent, internal chill that has resided in your bones for weeks, replacing it with a comforting, almost blissful hum. A long, slow sigh escapes your lips, a release you hadn't realized you were holding. Around you, the longhouse atmosphere, which had been muted by the skald's recent epic tales, now shifts into something looser, louder. The low murmurs grow into an easier chatter, a collective sigh of relief. Faces that were previously etched with the grim lines of winter's strain begin to soften, eyes sparkling with a new, less guarded light. You feel the tension unwinding from your own shoulders, a physical easing that feels alien yet profoundly welcome. The usual gnawing ache in your joints seems to recede, replaced by a dull, pleasant buzz that blurs the edges of discomfort. You watch as the skald himself, his voice now lower and more relaxed, accepts a fresh horn, his eyes crinkling at the corners. An old woman, typically reserved, leans back against the wall, her gaze distant, a faint, wistful smile playing on her lips. Across the hearth, a burly warrior, whose usual stoicism is an impenetrable shield, lets out a booming laugh, a sound that is surprisingly joyous and reckless in its abandon. He throws a heavy arm around a younger man, pulling him closer, sharing a jest you can't quite hear, but its warmth and camaraderie are palpable, radiating outward. The shadows on the longhouse walls, which often seemed to hold lurking anxieties, now dance with a playful, inviting rhythm. The constant memory of the howling winds outside, the biting cold that permeates every fiber of your being, the persistent, hollow pang of hunger. All these harsh realities retreat to the distant corners of your mind. They become faint echoes, muffled by the sweet warmth, rather than immediate pressing threats. You take another deep draught of the mead, letting its rich, complex flavor linger, a welcome distraction. This isn't just about getting drunk. It's about a collective, vital act of forgetting. It's a deliberate, if temporary, surrender to a shared warmth and illusion of plenty. This small golden stream, passed from hand to hand, becomes a potent weapon against the insidious creep of despair. A bulwark against the unrelenting grind of survival. You realize that in this brutal, frozen world, to occasionally forget the taste of fear, even for a few precious hours, is not a weakness. It is, in its own way, an essential part of the fight, a vital breath drawn deep before plunging back into the cold reality of tomorrow. The rhythmic thump-thump clack of the loom is the first thing that reaches you, a steady, insistent beat that vibrates through the very floorboards of the longhouse. It's a sound of purposeful labor, a counterpoint to the howling wind that still snarls outside. You move closer, drawn by its comforting mechanical pulse. The air here, in a corner tucked away from the central hearth's fierce heat, carries a fainter scent of lanolin and clean wool, distinct from the ever-present peat smoke. You see a woman, her brow furrowed in concentration, her hands moving with practiced grace. Her fingers, nimble despite their calluses, guide the shuttle back and forth through the intricate warp threads. The woven fabric grows steadily beneath her touch, a thick, warm blanket in muted colors, gray, brown, the undyed hues of the sheep's fleece. You feel the subtle tremor in the wooden frame of the loom, the vibration of its working parts, a testament to the effort she puts into each pass. Her gaze is unwavering, fixed on the growing cloth, a silent dedication to creating warmth, one thread at a time. The softness of the raw wool, awaiting its turn, contrasts sharply with the rough, worn texture of your own tunic, a reminder of the endless need for protection against the relentless cold. Just beyond, a different rhythm entirely pulls your attention, the sharp, ringing clang of hammer on iron, followed by the hiss of cooling metal. This is the forge, a small, separate chamber built against the longhouse wall, its presence betraying a deeper, fiercer heat. You step towards it, and the air around you thickens, heavy with the acrid scent of coal smoke, hot metal, and quenched water. The light here is harsher, a fiery orange glow from the bellows-fed embers, casting stark, dancing shadows that swallow the gloom. A man, stripped to his tunic despite the cold, his face smudged with soot and slick with sweat, stands over the anvil. His hammer rises and falls with brutal precision, each strike sending a shower of bright, fleeting sparks into the air. You feel the impact of each blow as a vibration through the packed earth floor, a powerful, raw pulse that seems to shake the very foundations of a longhouse. The blade he works on, glowing a defiant orange, screams softly as he plunges it into the water trough, a cloud of steam erupting with a violent cime de sauce that makes you recoil slightly from the sudden heat and sound. He doesn't glance up, his focus absolute, his powerful arms shaping the stubborn metal into a tool, a weapon, something vital. Two distinct crafts, two starkly different rhythms, yet both woven into the very fabric of survival. One creates the gentle barrier of warmth, the other the sharp edge of necessity. They are the pulse of life here, beating against the winter's decay. You realize, watching these twin acts of creation, that civilization isn't built on grand gestures in this world. It's held together by the diligent, repetitive, often painful work of human hands, transforming raw elements into the very tools that keep you alive, thread by sturdy thread, and hammer blow by ringing hammer blow. The cool, smooth weight of the bone settles into your palm, a dense fragment carved from a past hunt. It carries a faint, clean, almost mineral scent that mingles with the ever-present peat smoke. In your other hand, a small, finely honed carving knife, its tip gleaming in the dim light, waits. You feel its sharp edge against your thumb, a constant reminder of the precision required. Your breath is steady, a quiet rhythm against the deep, rasping sounds of the longhouse. You begin to work, the blade scraping softly across the bone surface. The sound is a delicate, almost musical scritch-scritch, a quiet counterpoint to the distant clang of the smithy and the thrum of the loom that sometimes penetrates this far corner. Tiny curls of bone dust, fine as powdered snow, gather on the piece, clinging to the intricate lines you are slowly, painstakingly etching. It's a fishing needle, perhaps, or a comb, something small but vital, meant to endure countless winters. Your eyes are fixed, unwavering, on the emerging pattern, a knot, a beast, or a simple geometric design, each curve and line an act of deliberate intention. The process is slow. So slow. Your fingers, still stiff from the morning's cold, ache with the sustained tension, the minute adjustments needed to guide the blade. A slight tremor, a moment of distraction, could ruin the entire piece, wasting precious material, wasting hours of sunless effort. You feel the constant pressure of necessity, the silent demand for perfection. This isn't just a craft. It's a defiant act against scarcity, a refusal to let any resource go unused. The longhouse air, thick and still, feels heavier with the weight of this quiet focus, this unwavering purpose. You notice an old man nearby, his head bent low over a piece of leather. His gnarled fingers work a thick sinew through a small hole, repairing a boot heel. His gaze, though clouded by age, holds the same fierce concentration, the same patient dedication to making something whole again. There's no conversation, only the shared understanding of the task, the communal battle against wear and tear. The rhythmic pull of his sinew, the faint squeak of the leather, joins the asterisk scritch of your bone, forming a quiet symphony of persistent creation. As a final curve emerges, smooth and distinct, you feel a subtle shift inside you. A brief, sharp surge of satisfaction, quickly followed by the thought of its practical use, its survival value. It's a beauty born of utility, a silent triumph over the elements. You run your thumb over the finished work, feeling the smooth lines, the sharp edges. It's a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. This isn't just about shaping materials. It's about shaping a future, however small, however fragile. You realize that even in the face of relentless winter, there is a profound, enduring power in the human hand to create, to mend, and to imbue even the smallest object with a stubborn, quiet beauty, a defiant spark against the cold and the dark. A different kind of chill has settled in the longhouse, one that has nothing to do with the wind outside. It's a bitter, almost metallic taste on the back of your tongue, a feeling that permeates the very air. You catch the faint, acrid scent of unspoken resentment, a subtle, unpleasant tang that manages to cut through the comforting peat smoke and damp wool. It hangs heavy, making the space feel smaller, denser, trapping every breath. Your eyes drift towards a corner where two men are sitting, seemingly engaged in separate tasks. One sharpens a hunting knife, the rasp of the stone against the blade unusually loud in the quiet. The other meticulously cleans a fishing hook, his movements precise, almost aggressive. They are not looking at each other. Their bodies are angled subtly away, a silent declaration of a rift. The air between them feels charged, thick with a tension you can almost see shimmering. Every muscle in their shoulders seems taut, ready. You notice how others in the longhouse instinctively adjust their movements, creating a wider berth around this particular patch of friction. Children are quieter, their play subdued, their glances furtive towards the two men. An old woman, mending a hide, keeps her head down, her hands working faster than usual, as if to escape the silent pressure. No one directly acknowledges the sour atmosphere, but everyone feels it, everyone navigates around it. It's like a rotten patch in a storage barrel. You can't see it clearly, but the smell warns you away. The low hum of normal longhouse activity, usually so comforting, now feels brittle, fragile, as if it could shatter at any moment. You hear the soft, almost imperceptible click of the first man's finished knife, then the careful clink as he sets it down. The second man stiffens, his fingers tightening around the small hook. He doesn't look up, but his jaw clenches, a small muscle twitching. The refusal to meet eyes, the deliberate absence of interaction, speaks more loudly than any shouted word. Their silence isn't peaceful, it's a loaded weapon. You remember the brief, harsh exchange yesterday over a misplaced tool, a small thing, but enough to light a slow-burning fuse. In the close confines of winter, under the constant strain of cold and hunger, even the smallest slight can fester, growing into something dark and potent. The unspoken grudge adds another layer of discomfort to an already challenging existence, a human coldness layered upon the natural cold. This isn't just a disagreement. It's a silent battle played out in averted gazes and rigid postures. You realize that even when the outside world is trying to kill you, the dangers within, the quiet, persistent bitterness between people, can be just as corrosive, slowly poisoning the very air you breathe. The heat from the central hearth presses against your left cheek, a comforting, familiar warmth in the perpetual chill of the longhouse. You close your eyes for a moment, letting it soak in. But when you open them, the world isn't just firelight and shadow. It's a sudden, sharp current, a ripple of frozen air that cuts through the peat smoke, an invisible blade of tension that pulls your gaze directly across the flickering flames. There they are, the two men from before. One sits hunkered down, cleaning a knife, the metal glinting dully in the fire's orange glow. The other, farther back, is ostensibly tending to a pile of kindling, but his hands are still, his body rigid. And his eyes are fixed on the first man. They are not merely looking, they are asterisk pressing, a physical weight across the dancing flames. You feel the intensity of that stare as if it were directed at you, a silent, unyielding challenge. The man with the knife doesn't look up immediately. He continues his precise, almost ostentatious cleaning, the small scrape of his thumb against the blade's edge audible in the sudden hush. But you see the subtle tightening in his jaw, the almost imperceptible tensing of his shoulders beneath the thick wool. He feels the weight of that gaze, just as you do. The air around the fire, usually a source of shared comfort, now feels brittle, charged. It's a warmth that fails to thaw the ice between them. The crackle of the burning logs suddenly sounds impossibly loud, punctuating the stretched silence. Around you, others in the longhouse have become still, their movements paused, their own gazes darting furtively between the two figures, then quickly away. Children, usually oblivious, now huddle closer to their parents, their small faces betraying a nervous awareness. No one speaks. No one even coughs. The collective breath of the longhouse seems to hold, suspended in the smoky air. The second man finally shifts, a slow, deliberate movement that makes the hide on his bench creak. The sound is like thunder in the stillness. The man with the knife flinches, a slight twitch, then finally, slowly, raises his head. His eyes meet the others across the fire. There's no challenge in his gaze, no fury, only a cold, hard emptiness, a profound lack of yielding. The stare holds, silent, unwavering, for what feels like an eternity. The fire between them seems to burn higher, hotter, reflecting in their unblinking eyes, yet it offers no warmth, only a stark, brutal illumination of their impasse. The unspoken words hang heavy, more potent than any shout. This isn't just about a tool anymore. It's about territory, about pride, about the unbearable closeness of winter, forcing ancient cracks into wide, dangerous chasms. You realize, watching that silent, frozen stare across the flickering light, that sometimes the most dangerous fires aren't those that burn wood, but those that smolder in the human heart, capable of radiating a chill that even the strongest hearth cannot defeat. You step deeper into the forest, and the air around you changes. It's no longer the sharp, stinging wind of the open plains, but a denser, stiller cold, heavy with the scent of ancient pine and damp, frozen earth. The deep snow muffles your bootfalls, each step a soft, barely audible thump. The filtered light, what little there is, struggles to penetrate the thick canopy of snow-laden branches, creating a world of deep, bruised greens and stark, blinding whites. The silence here isn't the vast, insulating quiet of a recent snowfall. It's a living, breathing silence, one that feels pregnant with observation. Every branch, every snowdrift, every dark shadow cast by a leaning trunk seems to hold an unspoken secret. You feel a prickle on the back of your neck, a familiar, unsettling sensation that makes the small hairs stand on end. It's the feeling of being watched. You stop. You hold your breath, straining to hear anything beyond the dull thrum of your own pulse in your ears. The forest holds its breath with you. No snap of a twig, no rustle of leaves, no distant call of a bird. Just that profound, watchful stillness. Your eyes dart from shadow to shadow, scanning the dense thickets, the gnarled roots that snake over the snow, the skeletal branches of bare trees against the gray sky begin to look like grasping fingers, or the skeletal ribs of some colossal, lurking beast. A subtle shiver runs down your spine, not from the cold, but from the raw instinct that screams presence. You pull your heavy wool cloak tighter, a futile gesture against an unseen threat. The air feels thinner now, harder to draw into your lungs, even though there's no wind. Your heart begins to quicken its beat, a dull drum against your ribs. You move again, but your steps are more cautious, more deliberate, as if you're trying not to disturb the hidden observer. Every shadow seems to deepen, every tree trunk a little wider, capable of concealing something just out of sight. You pause again, turning slowly, trying to catch movement, any telltale sign. But there is nothing. Only the silent, ancient trees, the pristine snow, and that inescapable, chilling sensation of eyes on your back, following your every move. It's a primal fear, a reminder that in this wild, unforgiving land, you are never truly alone, and rarely are the unseen eyes friendly. This isn't just about navigating a frozen forest. It's about navigating the thin line between hunter and hunted. You realize that sometimes, the most terrifying thing in the wilderness isn't what you see, but the cold, undeniable certainty of what you only feel watching you from the shadows. The biting wind whips around you, carrying a new, unsettling scent. Not just pine and ice, but a faint coppery tang, sharp and primal. It's the smell of fresh blood, mixing with the smoky air and the lingering cold. You are not in the longhouse now, but outside, gathered in a clearing where the trees stand like silent, watchful giants, their snow-laden branches bowed low. The ground beneath your feet is hard, frozen earth, dusted with fresh snow that glitters unnervingly in the dim, pre-dawn light. Before you, a makeshift altar of rough-hewn stones stands stark against the white landscape. Its surface is already dark with recent offerings. A hush has fallen over the gathered villagers. A silence far more profound than the snow-drowned world, heavy with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. Your breath plumes in front of you, a shaky ghost in the frigid air, and you can feel the goosebumps rising on your exposed skin despite your thick furs. An elder, his face grim and etched with the weight of responsibility, stands before the stones. His hands are bare, reddened by the cold, as he lifts a small, bleeding kid. Its soft cries cut through the stillness, raw and heartbreaking, and you feel a pang deep in your chest. The elder's movements are practiced, ritualistic, devoid of hesitation but not without gravity. He murmurs words you cannot quite discern, ancient invocations meant for ears far beyond the human realm. You watch the tension in his shoulders, the unwavering focus in his eyes as he prepares the sacrifice. Then, with a swift, brutal efficiency, the knife flashes. The kid's cries cut short, abruptly, leaving a sudden, deafening void in the air. A dark, crimson stain spreads quickly across the snow-dusted altar, steaming faintly in the cold, and the coppery scent of the blood intensifies, sharp and undeniable. You see some villagers wince, others simply close their eyes for a brief moment, but no one looks away. Their faces are a mixture of revulsion and a fierce, urgent piety. their gazes fixed on the offering, on the life given to appease the unseen forces that govern their unforgiving world. The elder takes a moment, his breathing heavy, then dips his fingers into the warm, fresh blood. He smears it onto the stones, onto his own forehead, onto the forehead of a nearby warrior who stands stoic, unblinking. It's a stark, visceral reminder of the pact being made, the ancient transaction between man and God, between mortal life and immortal power. The cold seems to lessen its grip slightly, or perhaps it's merely the strange, almost hallucinatory warmth that fear and ritual can conjure. This isn't about cruelty. It's about a profound, terrifying vulnerability. You realize, standing there, the metallic tang of blood on the wind, that in a world where survival hangs by a thread, faith isn't a luxury. It's a desperate, bloody necessity, a raw, primal cry for favor from gods who remain silent, indifferent, or perhaps simply absent. And the cost of that hope is always, always blood. A dry, grating sound echoes through the longhouse, a persistent scrape, scrape, scrape that cuts through the usual hum of low voices and the crackle of the hearth fire. It's the sound of the ladle, striking repeatedly against the bottom of the largest cooking pot, no longer scooping, but searching, desperately. You feel a distinct, cold tremor run through the packed earth floor, and an answering, sharper pang of hunger twists deep in your gut. Your gaze, along with every other pair of eyes in the longhouse, is fixed on the elder woman. Her back is to you, but her movements are slow, deliberate, burdened. You can almost feel the weight of what she is doing, the immense responsibility in that simple, repetitive motion. The air around the hearth, usually thick with the promising scent of a meal, now carries only a faint, watery aroma, stretched thin and almost transparent. The usual peat smoke still hangs, but now it feels like a shroud rather than a comfort. When she finally turns, the ladle held low, it's not full. It holds only a few thin grayish drops, clinging to the metal, a meager residue. Her face is a mask of weary resignation, her eyes scanning the waiting faces, holding a profound, heartbreaking helplessness. The usual line of villagers with their bowls, a daily ritual, is shorter now, thinned by sickness and the relentless passage of time. And even for those remaining, there is almost nothing. You watch as she serves the first few, her hand trembling slightly as she tips the ladle, coaxing the last few clinging drops into a child's outstretched wooden bowl. The child's eyes, usually eager, are wide now with a dawning comprehension, a quiet disappointment that speaks volumes. You hear no complaints, no murmurs. Just a heavy, communal silence, punctuated by the soft clink of an empty bowl being set down. The silence isn't respectful. It's the quiet of profound fear, of a shared, undeniable realization. When your turn comes, you extend your own bowl. Her eyes meet yours, a brief, stark moment of shared understanding. You receive what little she can give, a thin, almost invisible film of watery gruel, barely enough to wet the bottom of your spoon. It offers no warmth, no comfort, no illusion of sustenance. It simply marks the end. The metallic taste in your mouth is no longer from the iron wind, but from the raw taste of what this means. The long winter, which felt like an abstract threat, has now become a concrete, terrifying reality. The stored food, the very foundation of your survival, is gone. The gentle scrape of the ladle against the bottom of the barrel isn't just a sound, it's a declaration. You realize, holding that nearly empty bowl, that the deepest hunger isn't just in the stomach, but in the chilling certainty that there is nothing left. It's a profound, terrifying emptiness, a stark reminder of how utterly fragile life is, when even the promise of sustenance has scraped its last mournful goodbye. The silence now, after the meager meal, feels different. It's not the communal hush of shared storytelling or the watchful quiet of a simmering argument. This is a fragile, broken silence, punctuated by a faint, almost imperceptible sound that draws your attention across the longhouse. A hollow, soft rumble. It comes from the smallest figure by the far wall, a child, barely old enough to walk. You watch them. Their body, usually restless and squirming, is utterly still, slumped against their mother's side. Their small hand, no longer reaching for food, lies limply on their lap, pale and cold, even in the longhouse warmth. Their eyes, once wide and curious, are now sunken, ringed with faint shadows, staring blankly into the flickering fire, seeing nothing. The spark that usually animates them, even in this dim world, is extinguished. Their mouth is slightly ajar, a small involuntary whimper sometimes escaping, too quiet to truly be a cry, more like a breath caught in a trap. The mother holds the child close, her arms wrapped around the tiny, limp form, rocking almost imperceptibly. Her gaze is not on the child's face, but fixed on her own empty wooden bowl, clutched tight in her other hand. Her jaw is clenched, a muscle twitching almost violently in her cheek. She occasionally lifts a hand to the child's forehead, not checking for fever this time, but as if to simply feel the presence, to reassure herself of life, however fragile. You can almost feel the desperate, silent battle in her own mind, the agonizing weight of their smallness, their dependence. The air around them, usually thick with the peat smoke and the faint animal scent, now feels thin, cold, as if the child's hunger has drawn all the warmth from the immediate space. When another soft, hollow rumble escapes the child's belly, it seems to echo disproportionately in the quiet longhouse, a stark, undeniable testament to their profound need. It's a sound that rips through any lingering illusions of plenty, any comforting thought of shared endurance. This is a hunger that cannot be reasoned with, cannot be waited out, cannot be ignored. You feel a profound helplessness wash over you, a chilling understanding that this is a different kind of cold than the winter outside. This is an internal cold, the slow, creeping despair that comes from witnessing innocence suffer a pain you cannot alleviate. The low crackle of the fire, the distant sounds of movement, everything else in the longhouse seems to fade into a dull background hum, leaving only the profound, aching echo of that small, empty stomach. This isn't just about survival anymore. It's about a crushing, unbearable vulnerability. You realize that in this ruthless world, the most heartbreaking sound isn't a scream or a cry of pain, but the quiet, desperate absence of hope in the hollow echo of a child's hunger. The world outside the longhouse door is a pristine canvas of white, an unbroken sheet of fresh snow stretching as far as the eye can see under a pale, indifferent sky. The air, impossibly crisp and still, stings your nostrils with the clean, sharp scent of pure ice. Each step you take breaks the perfect surface with a soft, satisfying crunch, a sound that feels sacrilegious in the profound quiet. For a moment, It's almost beautiful. A momentary reprieve from the claustrophobic warmth and pervasive gloom of the longhouse. Then you see it. A stain. Not a splattering, but a deliberate, almost artistic streak of crimson, vivid and defiant against the virgin white. It's too bright for berries, too stark for anything natural. A brutal slash that draws your eye with magnetic force. Your breath catches in your throat. You approach it slowly, cautiously, your boots sinking into the untouched snow. As you get closer, the clean scent of ice is abruptly overwhelmed by a metallic, coppery tang that curls into the back of your nose, sharp and unmistakable. Blood. Fresh. The smell is raw, visceral, instantly quickening your pulse. It steams faintly in the frigid air, a testament to its recent presence. You feel a sudden tightening in your stomach, a mix of primal fear and a desperate gnawing hunger. This isn't just a sign of violence. It's a sign of potential sustenance, or perhaps a warning. Your eyes scan the immediate area. The crimson trail doesn't just stop. It leads deeper into a thicket of snow-laden pines, a stark, arterial thread against the overwhelming white. You notice how the snow around the initial splash is disturbed, scuffed, bearing the faint impression of heavy struggle. A broken branch, snapped clean, lies half-buried, its ragged end coated in a darker congealed crimson. The silence of the forest, once comforting, now feels heavy, pregnant with a recent, violent memory. You instinctively pull the worn axe from your belt, its cold weight, a familiar reassurance in your hand. Every shadow seems to deepen. Every soundless rustle of a snow-laden branch becomes a potential threat. You taste the sharp iron of the air, the metallic tang of fear and anticipation on your tongue. Is this the aftermath of a successful hunt? A chance at fresh meat to quell the hollow ache in your belly? Or is it the grim evidence of another struggle, a harsh lesson from the unforgiving wild? Your heart thumps a frantic rhythm against your ribs. The crimson bloom on the pristine snow isn't just a sight. It's a profound, chilling question. You realize that in this winter world, every sign of life, every drop of blood, carries with it the dual promise of both survival and inevitable death. And sometimes, you must follow that bloody path, not knowing what you will find. The metallic tang of the cold air burns in your lungs with every ragged breath, a sharp, searing pain that travels from your chest down into your gut. You gasp, desperate for more oxygen, but the frigid air only seems to ignite a deeper fire within you. Your heart pounds a frantic rhythm against your ribs, a drumbeat keeping pace with your desperate exertion. This isn't just cold. It's a raw, elemental force tearing at you from the inside out. Your legs churn, pushing through the unforgiving knee-deep snow. Each step is a monumental effort, your muscles screaming in protest, already aching in protesting from the relentless strain. The soft crunch squeak of your boots is barely audible over the roaring in your ears, a mix of blood rushing and the frantic wheeze of your own breathing. Your heavy furs, once a comforting shield, now feel like a suffocating burden, trapping the steam rising from your overheated body, making your skin clammy beneath the wool. You follow the crimson trail, now more distinct, a vivid ribbon against the endless white. The coppery scent of blood, mixed with the musky smell of a wounded animal, pulls you forward with a primal, desperate urgency. It's a scent that overrides the sharpness of the pine, the dampness of the frozen earth. Your eyes, narrowed against the pale, diffused light of the forest, are fixed not on the individual trees, but on the next disturbed patch of snow, the next telltale smear of red. The world blurs around the edges, a tunnel vision focused solely on the tracks, on the promise of meat. The incline steepens, and your calves burn, a deep, agonizing ache that threatens to lock your legs. You push harder, leaning into the slope, your hands, numb even in thick mittens, grasping at low-hanging branches for purchase. Your breath comes in shallower, more frequent gasps, tasting of sweat and iron, a bitter reminder of your body's limits. Yet, you cannot stop. The image of the empty stew pot, the gaunt faces back in the longhouse, the hollow echo of a child's hunger, drives you onward. It's a relentless, unyielding demand from within. You glimpse a flicker of movement ahead, a dark shape against the snow-covered underbrush. Adrenaline surges, a bitter, metallic taste in your mouth, overriding the exhaustion, sharpening your focus to an almost painful degree. Your lungs burn, a fire stoked by cold air and desperate need. But you find a hidden reservoir of strength, another push, another agonizing step. You are no longer just a person. You are a singular, hungry force, a hunter driven by the elemental need to survive. This isn't about choice anymore. It's about instinct, pure and raw. You realize, with every burning breath, that your body, for all its pain and protest, is an instrument of unyielding will. It's a profound, brutal truth. When life itself is on the line, the body becomes a furnace, burning everything it has to simply keep moving forward, demanding its due. The biting cold of the open air is a familiar shock, but as you step out onto the vast, flat expanse, a different sensation grips you. Beneath your thick, worn boots, the surface is smooth, almost polished, yet inherently unstable. It's the frozen lake, a giant, treacherous mirror reflecting the bruised gray sky above. You feel a subtle give, a barely perceptible shudder, as your weight settles. The initial crunch of packed snow gives way to a dull, low asterisk thrum asterisk that vibrates up through the soles of your feet, a sound like a vast, ancient drum beginning to stir deep beneath the world. Your breath hitches. You know this sound. It's the ice speaking, groaning under the immense weight of winter, shifting with unseen currents and temperatures. You glance down. Through the clearest patches, the ice is a murky, dark gray, almost black, and you can glimpse eerie, distorted reflections of the clouds, making it feel as if you are indeed walking on a frozen, inverted sky, fragile and deep. The sheer depth of the water beneath feels palpable, a cold, hungry void. A thread of ice, thin as spider silk, fractures underfoot with a faint, crystalline supping, running outward from your boot like a momentary bolt of lightning. You move forward, each step now more tentative, more deliberate. Your muscles are coiled, ready to react, your balance constantly adjusting. The temperature drops sharply from the ice itself, radiating an uncompromising chill that seeps through your thickest wool and leather. It's a cold that doesn't sting, but permeates, deadening your toes, making your fingers ache. The metallic taste in your mouth is fear, sharp and undeniable. Suddenly, a deeper, louder crack reverberates from somewhere ahead, a sound like an axe-splitting solid timber. It's followed by a series of unsettling, hollow groans that echo across the vast, white expanse. You see the heads of others, spread thinly across the frozen lake, snap up, their movements stiff, their faces etched with the same wary apprehension you feel. No one speaks, but their shared glances are a testament to the collective, unspoken dread. Every step taken by another person seems to transmit a subtle tremor through the ice, a tangible reminder of its interconnected fragility. The world here is flat, exposed, offering no cover, no comfort. You feel utterly vulnerable, suspended on a vast, crystalline sheet that might, at any moment, decide to give way. The wind, when it comes, whispers across the slick surface, carrying a faint, distant scent of raw fish and deeper, colder water. You press on, because you must, but every fiber of your being is hyper-aware of the incredible, terrifying power contained just inches beneath your feet. This isn't just a frozen lake. It's a living, breathing entity, constantly on the brink of profound change. You realize with every bone-chilling tremor that true survival here isn't just about enduring the cold, but about understanding the deceptive beauty of the land, knowing that beneath its pristine surface lies a deadly, fragile deception, capable of swallowing you whole in a single, silent gulp. A sudden, sharp crack explodes impossibly close, a sound like a giant's bones snapping, ripping through the profound quiet of the frozen lake. It's followed by a sickening groan, a low, guttural rumble that vibrates up through the ice, through your boots and straight into your chest. Your heart leaps, a frantic bird trapped in your ribs. You instinctively freeze, every muscle tightening, your breath catching in your throat. Before you, the pristine white surface has betrayed itself. A jagged, dark line, a fresh wound, stretches across the ice, leading directly to a gaping maw of black water. It's not a clean hole, but a messy, churning break, where chunks of ice drift lazily in the cold, dark liquid. A sudden gust of wind, rising from the raw opening, carries with it a new, potent scent. The clean, mineral tang of deep, frigid water, a cold so pure it hurts your nose. It's a primal, ancient smell, the scent of the abyss. You stare down into that dark slit. The water is a deep, impenetrable black, not reflecting the sky but swallowing it whole, pulling all light into its crushing depth. It shimmers faintly, a dull, oily sheen that offers no comfort. You can almost feel the immense, silent pressure of the fjord below, pressing up against the thin skin of ice that holds you. The cold radiating from the water is different from the air. It's a penetrating, soul-deep chill that promises to steal your breath and seize your muscles in an instant. Your boot, just inches from the edge of the jagged break, feels suddenly precarious. You feel the ice beneath you shift, a subtle, unnerving sway that makes your stomach lurch. You recoil, stepping back with a desperate scramble, your arms flailing slightly to regain balance. Your eyes, wide with primal fear, dart to the other figures on the ice. A man nearby, already drawing his net from a hole, has stopped, his face pale, his gaze fixed on your perilously close encounter. His eyes meet yours, a silent acknowledgement of the ever-present danger, the thin line that separates them all from the jaws of the fjord. The sound of the ice groaning continues, a low, hungry growl that seems to emanate from the very depths. It's a chilling reminder that this vast, beautiful white plain is not solid ground. but a fragile, deceptive membrane stretched over an immense, hungry darkness. The thought of falling in, of the sudden, paralyzing cold, the crushing weight of the water, sends a fresh wave of terror through you. You feel your body trembling, a silent protest against the terrifying vulnerability of your situation. This isn't just about slipping, it's about being consumed. You realize, standing on that groaning, treacherous ice, that the most terrifying aspect of winter isn't just the cold and the hunger. It's the profound, ever-present reality that beneath your feet the world can open at any moment. Its dark, unforgiving jaws ready to swallow you whole, leaving no trace but a memory to those who are left to stand on its fragile surface. The wind isn't just a force of nature now. It feels like a physical rejection, pushing you away, tearing at your furs with a spiteful, personal ferocity. It whips around your ears, stealing the warmth from your face, and carries with it not the scent of pine or ice, but a sharp, acrid tang that tastes like judgment, like the end of everything you knew. You feel the immense, crushing weight of their collective gaze on your back. Even though you refuse to turn, you walk. Each step through the deep, unforgiving snow feels impossibly heavy, a leaden march away from warmth, away from kin, away from any hope. The familiar longhouse, once a beacon of smoky comfort, shrinks behind you with agonizing slowness. Its dark silhouette against the bruised gray sky is a fading promise, a closed door. You don't look back directly, but you feel its absence, a gaping hole where shared breath and flickering firelight used to be. The low murmurs of the villagers, once a constant hum, are now entirely gone, replaced by the relentless shriek of the wind and the deafening silence of your own isolation. Your hands, numb even inside your thick mittens, clutch the strap of a meager bag. Its weight feels insignificant against the immense burden in your chest. Inside, there's little enough to offer true sustenance, a stark reminder of the careful arithmetic of hunger you once shared, now gone. The only warmth you feel is a bitter, burning knot of resentment and a deeper, colder fear that coils in your stomach. It's not just the physical cold that seeps into your bones now. It's the cold of utter solitude, of being utterly alone in a world that already demands everything. You push on, your head bowed against the gale, your shoulders hunched. The landscape ahead is vast, featureless. An unbroken expanse of white, leading only to the indistinct blur of distant, snow-laden hills. There are no tracks before you, no welcoming lights. Only the path you are forced to make, each bootfall a lonely punctuation mark in the pristine, indifferent snow. You taste the salt of an unshed tear freezing almost instantly on your cheek, mingling with the biting sting of the wind, the familiar rhythm of community, the shared tasks, the collective breath of the longhouse, the distant clang of the smithy. All those sounds are gone, replaced by the hollow echo of your own footsteps, the rasp of your own breathing. The sheer silence is a physical ache, a constant reminder of what you have lost. You are a solitary figure in a vast, white wilderness, a small, dark shape against an infinite, unforgiving canvas. This isn't merely exile from a dwelling. It's an exile from the very fabric of human warmth and shared endurance. You realize, with a chilling clarity that cuts deeper than any frost, that in the brutal winter, the most profound and deadly cold isn't the one that freezes your skin, but the one that freezes your heart, leaving you utterly, terrifyingly alone against the world. The wind has picked up again, a constant mournful drone that seems to vibrate in your very teeth. It carries with it the sting of fine ice crystals, lashing against your face, blurring your vision. Each breath is shallow, painful, the cold air burning deep in your chest. You push one foot forward, then the other, the crunch of your boot in the deep snow becoming less distinct, more muffled, as if the world itself is trying to swallow the sound. You are walking away from everything. The longhouse, once a solid, distant silhouette, has long since vanished behind the shifting curtains of snow and wind. There is nothing but white, stretching endlessly in every direction, meeting the bruised gray sky in an indistinguishable blur. Your eyes strain, searching for any landmark, any sign of direction, but there is only the monotonous, featureless expanse. The light is fading fast, plunging the world into a deeper, more profound twilight. The rhythm of your footsteps, once determined, has become erratic, punctuated by longer pauses. The effort required for each lift of your leaden leg is immense, a battle against an invisible, crushing weight. Your limbs feel sluggish, unresponsive, as if your blood has thickened to ice water. You hear the labored rasp of your own breathing, a raw, desperate sound in the vast silence. The wind, which once seemed to push you, now merely sweeps over you, indifferent, as if you are no longer worth its energy. You stumble. Your knee gives out, sending you face first into a soft drift. The cold, powdery snow fills your mouth, clings to your eyelashes, instantly numbing your skin. The momentary warmth of your breath quickly dissipates. The struggle to push yourself back upright is immense. A slow, agonizing heave. Your mind, too, feels heavy, sluggish, thoughts scattering like snowflakes in the wind. The biting ache in your bones is constant, but now it's accompanied by a strange, creeping lethargy, a profound desire to simply stop. The footsteps continue, but they are softer now, less certain. Each thump into the snow is more spaced out, less resolute, as if the sound itself is struggling to be heard, fading into the vast, indifferent silence of the winter wilderness. The tracks you leave behind are already blurring, filling with fresh snow, destined to be erased completely. You are leaving nothing behind, leaving no trace. The world is swallowing you whole, one slow, fading step at a time. This isn't just about walking away. It's about becoming part of the landscape, slowly dissolving into the snow. You realize with a chilling clarity that the greatest solitude isn't just being alone, but being forgotten, your very existence fading into the silent, endless white, like a footprint erased by a relentless, indifferent storm. The sound is so subtle at first, you almost mistake it for the settling of the longhouse timbers, or a trick of the straining wind. But then it comes again, clearer this time, a soft crystalline plink, followed by another, and another. A drop of water. Not ice falling, but water. Real, liquid water, dripping from the smoke hole, landing on the packed earth floor with a small, wet enough splat. You feel a deep, almost involuntary shiver run through you, not from cold, but from a profound, unexpected shift. You reach out, holding your palm beneath the gentle stream. The first drop is shockingly cold against your skin, but the next, and the next, carries a pristine, almost clean warmth, entirely different from the smoky heat of the hearth. It's an ancient cold, refined and pure, a taste of the world reclaiming itself. The air, still thick with peat smoke and the damp musk of bodies, now carries a faint, exhilarating hint of something else. Wet earth, a promise held in the very moisture. You push aside the hide door, stepping out. The world outside is no longer a canvas of stark, unyielding white. It's softening, weeping. Glistening trails run down the packed snowdrifts. Tiny silver rivulets carving intricate paths where only static white existed before. The low roar of the relentless wind has lessened, replaced by a softer, gentler sigh that carries the faint, almost imperceptible murmur of melting snow. The sky above is still bruised gray, but there's a new quality to the light, a diffuse luminescence that promises a distant, yet inevitable, brightening. Your boots, sinking slightly into the thawing top layer of snow, no longer crunch with hard ice, but yield with a soft, squelching resistance. You see patches of dark, exposed earth emerging near the longhouse walls, like old, scarred wounds slowly healing. The scent of damp, decaying leaves and awakening soil rises from these patches, earthy and raw, a pungent counterpoint to the lingering crispness of the air. It's a smell that signals a slow, profound turning. You notice the faces around you, less grim perhaps, a subtle lightening in the eyes. No one shouts for joy. This isn't a moment for boisterous celebration. It's a moment of quiet reverence. A woman touches the dampness on a plank, a faint, almost reverent smile playing on her lips. A child tentatively sticks out their tongue, catching a falling drop, their small face alight with wonder. There's a shared understanding, an unspoken collective sigh of relief, in every measured glance, every softened posture. This isn't the end of winter, not yet, but it's the beginning of the end. This sacred drip, this gentle weeping of the world, isn't just water. It's a profound, undeniable promise. A slow, insistent beat of the world returning to itself, drop by precious drop. You realize that sometimes the greatest hope isn't a blazing sunrise, but the quiet, persistent sound of water beginning to flow, a testament to life's stubborn, unending return. The air around you isn't just damp with the sacred drip of thaw anymore. It's thick, rich, and undeniably potent. An overpowering aroma rises from the very ground, pushing through the lingering peat smoke and the cold bite of the wind. It's the deep, earthy smell of soil awakening, of decaying leaves finally yielding to new life, of a profound, primal fermentation that has been locked beneath the ice for months. You breathe it in deep, and it fills your lungs with a sensation that is both ancient and startlingly new, a taste of damp, dark earth on your tongue. You step outside, and the transformation is startling. Vast stretches of snow, once pristine white, are now a slushy, glistening gray, receding rapidly. But it's the patches of exposed earth that truly captivate your senses. They are everywhere now, dark, rich wounds bleeding through the white, steaming faintly in the diffused, pale light of the sky. You stoop down, touching the ground with a bare hand. It's not frozen solid. It's yielding, spongy, cold but alive, a vibrant squelch beneath your fingers. The moisture is palpable, seeping into your skin, carrying that profound, intoxicating scent upwards. The soundscape, too, has shifted. The gentle plink of earlier drips has intensified into a pervasive, musical rush. Meltwater gurgles in every ditch and crevice, tiny silver streams carving new paths through the slush, rushing towards the distant, unfrozen fjords. Overhead, a single tentative bird call cuts through the air, thin and reedy, a sound almost forgotten, a fragile melody of return. And beneath it all, that persistent, deep, earthy scent, growing stronger with every passing moment, a powerful testament to the land's liberation. You see others, too, drawn out by this profound change. They stand at the edge of the melting snow, their faces lifted slightly, breathing in this resurrected world. Their eyes, once dull with winter's gloom, now hold a flicker of cautious hope, a silent, almost reverent awe. A young child, bundled in furs, points a small, mittened finger at a tiny patch of green, barely visible beneath a retreating snowdrift, a brave, defiant promise emerging from the dark soil. There's no boisterous celebration, no shouts of triumph, but a quiet, collective breath, a shared understanding of the immense, slow turning of the seasons. The cold still bites, a reminder that winter hasn't entirely released its grip, but its power feels lessened, its dominance challenged. The very air pulses with this new, potent energy, a quiet, undeniable crescendo of life pushing its way through. This isn't just the end of winter. It's the profound, visceral experience of the world being reborn. You realize with every breath of that rich, earthy smell that the land itself possesses an immense, unwavering will to live, and that after enduring the absolute worst, to witness its quiet, determined return is a hope more powerful than any fear. The air outside the longhouse carries the rich earthy tang of thawing soil, but as you walk towards the edge of the receding snow line, a colder, almost metallic scent cuts through it. The stark, clean smell of ancient stone and damp, rusted iron. The plink-plink of meltwater is everywhere, a constant, hopeful chorus, but here it also reveals. What emerges from beneath the slowly shrinking drifts isn't living, but a silent, tangible echo of the past. Like ghosts preserved in ice, your boots sink into the wet, slushy earth as you approach a mound that had been nothing more than a featureless hump of snow for months. Now the outline of something harder, more defined, begins to emerge. It's a low, rounded stone, mottled with moss and lichen, its surface wet and cold to the touch. You run your fingers over its rough texture, feeling the subtle indentations, the marks of time and weather. It's a boundary stone, perhaps, or a marker from a time before this settlement. It hums with a quiet, forgotten history. Further along, where a larger drift has collapsed, you spot a glint of dark, dull metal. You bend down, the cold dampness seeping through your wool tunic as you reach into the muddy slush. Your fingers close around something heavy, cold, and strangely shaped. You pull it free. A broken axe head, rusted and pitted, its edge blunted by centuries. The faint smell of wet iron and rich, dark soil clings to it, a powerful, pungent connection to its origins. It feels ancient, a silent testament to someone else's toil, someone else's struggle against a winter just as fierce. You notice others, too, making similar discoveries. A young woman, her face typically focused on the tasks of the present, kneels carefully, brushing away wet earth from what looks like the faint, crumbling remains of an older hearth, a few fire-blackened stones hinting at long-gone warmth. Her movements are slow, almost reverent, her eyes wide with a quiet curiosity that seems to pull her back through time. An old man, his back bent, points a gnarled finger at a piece of splintered, waterlogged timber emerging from a patch of marshy ground, its dark, weathered grain telling a story of ship or longhouse, long since swallowed by the earth. His gaze is distant, filled with unspoken memories. The sun, still weak and watery, casts long, pale shadows that seem to dance around these unearthed fragments, giving them a strange, temporary life. The air is heavy with the weight of these revelations, the tangible presence of those who walked this land before. The faint sounds of meltwater and the distant cries of returning birds seem to weave a mournful, yet hopeful, melody around these remnants. This isn't just a land thawing. It's history bleeding through, reminding you of the countless lives and struggles that came before yours. You realize that even in the most brutal, unforgiving environments, the past is never truly buried. It always waits, preserved in the earth, ready for the slow, persistent thaw to reveal its enduring, silent ghosts. The air today carries a different weight, heavier than just the dampness of the thaw or the scent of awakening earth. It's permeated by the stark, raw smell of freshly turned soil, cold and rich, mingling with the faint, lingering metallic tang you've come to associate with loss. You stand on a patch of ground just beyond the longhouse, where the last stubborn drifts of snow cling to the shadows. But the earth itself has been broken. Before you, the scene is quiet, somber. Several fresh mounds of dark, wet earth stand stark against the melting snow, each one a grim testament to the winter's brutal toll. Simple wooden markers, uncarved and rough, pierce the raw ground, their newness a painful contrast to the ancient, weathered stones you saw yesterday. You feel the cold, damp soil yielding beneath your boots, and a chilling sense of emptiness settles in your gut. You watch as the village elder, his face a map of weary resilience, stands at the head of one of the mounds. He holds a small, smoothed stone in his hand, a pebble, and lets it fall onto the fresh earth with a soft click, a sound that resonates far too loudly in the profound quiet. His gaze sweeps over the gathered villagers, his eyes holding a shared grief, a profound acknowledgement of those absent. The faces around you are drawn, gaunt, the lines of hunger and sleeplessness still deeply etched, but now softened by a communal, unspoken sorrow. A mother, her eyes red-rimmed, clutches a tattered piece of cloth, her shoulders shaking with a barely suppressed sob that is swallowed by the vast, open air. The low, mournful sigh of the wind whispers through the skeletal branches of the nearby trees, a natural lament for the departed. It carries the scent of damp earth and something else, the undeniable, subtle aroma of decay, a chilling reminder of the fragility of life in this unforgiving world. You feel the raw cold seep into your own bones, a physical manifestation of the emotional chill. There are fewer people here than there should be. You count the fresh mounds, the silent markers, and then you count the faces of the living, a grim arithmetic of survival. You step forward, your movement slow, deliberate, a quiet act of respect. You reach down, picking up a small, smooth stone from the thawing ground. Its coldness a familiar weight in your hand. You place it gently on one of the new mounds. A tiny, personal offering. It's a silent recognition, a defiant refusal to let the snow and the cold erase those who are gone. The cold earth accepts it, silently. This isn't just a burial, it's a reckoning. You realize, standing on that cold, freshly turned earth, that the true cost of winter isn't just counted in empty larders or aching bones. It's tallied in the absences, in the profound, unfillable voids left behind. And in the quiet act of honoring the fallen, you also recognize the fierce, stubborn resilience of the living, forced to endure, to count their losses, and to still, somehow, find the strength to face the dawning promise of another, equally uncertain spring. The heavy wooden bench digs into the backs of your thighs, cold and hard despite the layers of rough wool beneath you. You grip the splintered shaft of the oar, its rough grain abrasive against your raw palms. With a grunt, you heave, pulling the immense weight of the water, feeling the oar flex and creak in your hands. The boat lurches forward with a sudden, powerful surge, throwing a fine mist of spray into the air. It hits your face, a brutal sting of icy salt that instantly makes your eyes water and coats your lips with a bitter, metallic taste. The air here is different from the land, heavy with the sharp, clean tang of the open ocean, mixed with the faint, persistent smell of wet wood and cured fish. Above you, the sky is a vast, bruised gray canvas, mirroring the churning, choppy water below. The boat rises and falls with a sickening, rhythmic motion, plunging into the troughs of waves, then surging upward, exposing a fleeting glimpse of distant, dark land on the horizon before dipping again. Your stomach clenches with each drop, a constant battle against the queasy sway. Every muscle in your back, shoulders, and arms screams in protest, burning with a deep, relentless ache. You pull again, in unison with the heavy grunts and sharp exhales of the men around you. The sound of dozens of oars dipping into the frigid water is a primal, rhythmic chafe, wump. A powerful, collective heartbeat driving the longship forward. You feel the strain in your jaw, the tightening of your throat, as you lean into the effort, your breath coming in ragged, steaming gasps. The cold spray lashes at your exposed face again, a constant, sharp reminder of the unforgiving environment. You glimpse the man opposite you, his face a mask of strain, rivulets of sweat tracing paths through the salt and grime on his brow. His eyes are fixed on the back of the man in front of him, a silent understanding passing between them, a shared, desperate resolve. There's no talk, no wasted energy, only the brutal, synchronized effort, a single will against the immense, churning power of the sea. The wood of your oar, already splintering near the grip, grinds against the oarlock with a high-pitched, protesting whine, a constant, unsettling sound that speaks of stress and fragility. The wind howls past your ears, a deafening roar that tries to snatch the breath from your mouth, but you hold fast, focusing only on the next pull, the next plunge of the oar into the depths. This is more than just rowing. It's a defiant act, a desperate prayer in motion. This isn't just about strength. It's about sheer, brutal endurance against a force far greater than yourself. You realize, with every burning muscle and every sting of salt, that the sea demands everything you have, and in return, offers nothing but the terrifying, exhilarating chance to simply keep fighting. The rhythmic athbawump splash of the oars changes, subtle at first, then more pronounced. The water beneath the longship feels different, less open, more confined. The air, still sharp with salt spray, now carries a new, fainter scent, a damp, earthy musk, distinct from the raw ocean. You lift your gaze, pushing past the burning ache in your muscles, past the sting of salt on your lips, and there it is, a distant line, a dark, low smear against the bruised gray horizon. Land. Not the familiar peaks of home, but an unknown shore, indistinct and hazy. It's a tantalizing promise, a stark contrast to the endless, churning expanse of water you've been battling for days. The sight sends a jolt through your weary body, a sudden surge of something akin to hope, sharp and almost painful after so much relentless effort. The oarsmen around you sense it too. A ripple of suppressed excitement passes through the boat. Though no one speaks, you see heads lift, shoulders straighten, a renewed, almost frantic energy infuse the rowing. The come splash becomes more urgent, the grunts of effort deeper, more desperate. You watch an old warrior beside you, his face a grim mask throughout the journey, now fix his gaze on that distant line, a flicker of something unreadable in his weathered eyes. He tightens his grip on his oar, pulling with a sudden, renewed force that belies his age. The taste of fear, which had been a constant companion, now mixes with a different flavor, anticipation. This distant shore isn't just a place to rest. It's an unknown, a potential new beginning, or perhaps a new danger. The sky still hangs heavy, oppressive, but the land beneath it, slowly gaining definition, now holds a different kind of mystery. You see dense, dark forests clinging to low hills. Their stark, winter branches like grasping claws against the pale light. There are no signs of life, no welcoming smoke plumes, no distant lights. Just that raw, untamed wilderness waiting. The air grows colder, heavy with the scent of damp moss and something wild, unfamiliar. The gentle rocking of the boat becomes a more violent buck as the choppy waves of the open sea give way to the unseen currents of the coastline. Your stomach clenches, not from nausea now, but from the sudden, sharp awareness of vulnerability. You are leaving the known perils of the sea for the unknown dangers of the land. This isn't just about reaching a destination. It's about a desperate gamble. You realize, with every burning muscle and every distant glimpse of that foreboding shore, that while the sea has tested your endurance, the land will test your courage. And the promise of a distant shore always carries with it the peril of what lies hidden beneath its wild, untouched surface. The fire in the crude camp you've made on this new, wild shore crackles with a defiant energy, sending sparks spiraling into the bruised twilight. Its warmth, while welcome, doesn't quite penetrate the deeper chill that has settled in your bones. You rub your hands together, the rough wool of your mittens rasping against your raw skin, and you feel the familiar sting of cold that has become a constant companion. You pull off a mitten, bringing your hand close to the flickering light. The skin is a map of endurance. It's rough, reddened, crisscrossed with a lattice of tiny, dry cracks, each one a testament to wind, salt, and relentless cold. Your knuckles are swollen, slightly stiff, the nails broken and ragged from countless unseen scrapes and arduous tasks. A persistent itch, a phantom sensation, dances across your fingertips, a ghost of frostbite long past. You can almost feel the texture of the unforgiving ice, the bite of the axe handle, the drag of the oar, etched into the very surface of your skin. A quiet sigh escapes your lips, and you press your hand to your cheek. The raw, wind-burned skin of your face protests the touch, a mixture of cold and an underlying soreness that never truly leaves. Your lips are chapped, cracked, tasted perpetually of sea salt and dryness. You glimpse the reflection of your eyes in the water-filled cooking pot. They are bloodshot, weary, ringed with dark circles, holding the muted, watchful gaze of someone who has seen too many long nights and too few easy days. Even your hair feels coarser, brittle, stiff with dried sea spray, and the persistent dampness of endless winter. You look around the small camp. Other faces, illuminated by the flickering firelight, bear similar marks. The old warrior from the longship sits hunched over, his hands, gnarled and thick, attempting to mend a torn piece of sailcloth. The skin on his exposed forearms is a canvas of old scars and new abrasions, a history of a life lived on the edge. A young woman rubs a poultice onto a deep gash on her leg, her movements wincing, her face pale, but her determination unwavering. Everybody here tells a story, a silent narrative etched onto their very surface. The crackle of the fire, the distant, mournful cry of a seabird, the soft whisper of the restless wind. These sounds are backdrop to the unspoken narrative of skin, muscle, and bone. This isn't just about enduring the cold outside. It's about the very landscape of winter becoming a part of you, literally etched into your flesh. You realize, watching the firelight dance across your worn hand, that you carry the winter with you now, not just in memory, but physically. Your skin has become a living map, a testament to every storm, every ache, every hungry day. And in that raw etched beauty, there's a profound, undeniable pride in simply having endured. The air on this new shore, softened by the gradual retreat of winter, no longer tears at your lungs, but rather slips in with a cool, gentle breath. It carries the faint, salty tang of the sea, now calmer, and the earthy dampness of new soil, but beneath it all there's a hollow note, a quiet space where other presences once resonated. You feel a strange sense of quiet, an almost overwhelming stillness that isn't the oppressive quiet of heavy snow, but the sober hush of reflection. You stand at the edge of the rudimentary camp, your hands, still rough and scarred, resting on the cold, smoothed wood of a temporary shelter. Your body, though weary, no longer protests with constant aches and tremors. It simply exists, a testament to endurance. Yet an emptiness stirs within you, a phantom limb of connection that aches with the absence of what was. The biting cold of endless nights and the gnawing hunger that defined your existence are receding memories, but the echoes of their cost remain, etched deeper than any frostbite. Your eyes, no longer strained by perpetual gloom, scan the faces of the others in the camp. They are gaunt, lined, forever marked by the winter's harsh hand. The old warrior, his eyes still holding a distant, watchful glint, sits sharpening his axe, but his movements are slower, more deliberate, weighted by what he has seen. The young woman, her gash now healing, moves with a quiet grace, but the lightness in her step is tempered by a profound sobriety. Their gazes, when they meet yours, hold a mutual understanding, a silent acknowledgement of the unsaid. They know the price paid. You look out at the gray, expansive sea, then back at the dark, untamed forest that looms beyond the camp. The land stretches before you, a new beginning, full of unknown promises and perils. But every breath of this new air, every glimpse of a hopeful, thawing world, is underscored by the sharp, metallic taste of memory. You recall the child's hollow cry, the rasping coughs, the bitter tang of a grudge, the desperate look in a mother's eyes. These aren't just recollections. They are living ghosts, carried within you, imprinted on the very fabric of your survival. The harsh beauty of the dawn, now slowly painting the eastern sky with muted purples and bruised oranges, feels less like a celebration and more like a solemn reckoning. You are here, you have endured. But you did not endure alone, and you did not endure without cost. This isn't just about starting anew. It's about carrying the weight of what was lost into every new sunrise, understanding that survival is not an ending to suffering, but a constant, quiet honoring of the sacrifices made, forever held in the survivor's gaze. The air today isn't just damp and earthy. It carries a distinct, startling freshness, a whisper of something truly green, something alive. It's a smell so subtle you almost miss it, a faint, sweet tang that cuts through the lingering dampness and the distant, salty air from the fjord. You find yourself instinctively searching for its source, drawn by a primal, almost forgotten memory of verdant life. You walk with careful steps, your worn boots sinking slightly into the soft, yielding earth. The ground is a patchwork of dark, wet soil and retreating snowdrifts, but in one particularly sun-warmed hollow, something catches your eye. A tiny splash of vibrant green, almost impossibly bright against the muted browns and grays of the thawed landscape. It's a solitary sprout, barely taller than your thumb, pushing its way defiantly through the broken earth, its delicate leaves unfurling with a quiet, undeniable strength. You kneel, the damp cold seeping through your worn breeches. Your fingers, still stiff from winter's chill, reach out with a tenderness born of profound respect. You carefully pinch off one of the tiny leaves. It feels unexpectedly cool and surprisingly firm between your fingertips. A stark contrast to the rough, dry texture of the preserved foods you've subsisted on for so long. You bring it to your nose, inhaling deeply. The scent is pure, sharp, an explosion of clean, vital green that makes your senses tingle. Then you put it in your mouth. The taste is a revelation. Not the dull saltiness of dried fish, or the sour tang of fermented cabbage, or the blandness of gruel. This is bitter, yes, with an edge, but overwhelmingly, it is fresh. A burst of clean, vibrant flavor, potent and alive, floods your tongue. It sends a jolt through your weary body, a sensation so foreign, so deeply satisfying, that it almost makes your eyes water. Your stomach, usually a hollow drum, gives a quiet, hopeful rumble. You glance around. A young woman, also foraging, spots your small, precious discovery. Her eyes widen, a ghost of a smile touching her lips, and she nods, a silent acknowledgement of the profound significance of this tiny, defiant sprout. The world isn't just thawing, it's beginning to breathe, to offer itself anew. This isn't just a plant, it's a promise, a miracle. You realize, with every chew of that bitter, fresh leaf, that true wealth isn't in gold or in conquests, but in the stubborn, indomitable will of life to return, to break through the dark earth, and to offer its first, precious, green bite. After so much death and cold, this small taste is a potent reminder that life, no matter how fragile, always finds a way. The sensation isn't just warmth, it's an embrace. The sun, finally high and strong, presses against your skin, a deep, pervasive heat that permeates your thick furs and sinks into your bones, coaxing out the last vestiges of winter's chill. You lift your face to it, closing your eyes, feeling the light paint crimson patterns behind your eyelids. It's a physical balm, a silent symphony of golden energy pouring down, and for the first time in what feels like an eternity, your muscles truly relax. The metallic taste of cold fear and hunger finally begins to recede from your tongue, replaced by a clean, almost sweet breath of air. You open your eyes. The world explodes with color, no longer muted grays and stark whites, but vibrant greens painting the hillsides, a riot of nascent life pushing skyward. The distant fjord shimmers under the brilliant light, its surface a dancing tapestry of blues and silvers, no longer threatening with dark, icy jaws. The air is alive with a cacophony of sounds, the persistent, joyful rush of meltwater cascading down rocky slopes, the buzzing of newly awakened insects, the clear, jubilant calls of returning birds, a bustling soundtrack that replaces the mournful howls and deafening silences of winter. You breathe deeply, inhaling the rich, overpowering scent of damp, fertile earth, of burgeoning growth, and the faint, sweet perfume of wildflowers beginning to bloom in sheltered nooks. It's the smell of life, raw and vibrant, a profound counterpoint to the sense of confinement and decay that permeated the longhouse. Your hands, still scarred and calloused, reach out, not to mend or to gather kindling, but to simply touch the rough bark of a budding tree, feeling the subtle quiver of life returning within it. Around the new camp, a different energy pulses. People move with a lighter step, a renewed purpose in their actions. The young woman from the longhouse laughs, a clear, ringing sound you haven't truly heard in months, as she gathers herbs from a sunny patch. Even the old warrior, his face still etched with the map of winter, now stands straighter, his gaze on the horizon holding not just watchfulness, but a quiet, enduring resolve. There's a shared, unspoken understanding among them, a collective sigh of relief, yet it's tempered by the shadows of what was lost. You see the thin faces, the gaunt lines, the deep-set eyes that still carry the ghosts of hunger and cold. The graves on the hill are a stark reminder of the price paid. The sun warms your skin, but it cannot erase the memory of the empty stew pot, the rasp of a winter cough, the hollow echo of a child's hunger. Those lessons are etched deeper than any frostbite, a permanent part of the soil you now stand upon. The blood spilled, whether in sacrifice or struggle, nourished this very ground, bringing forth this vibrant green. This isn't just a change of seasons. It's a profound, visceral reckoning. You realize, standing under the glorious, life-giving sun, that the true prize of its return isn't just warmth or plenty. It's the renewed, fierce awareness of life itself. Bought at a terrible cost, a fragile, hard-won miracle that demands every ounce of your enduring respect and unyielding will to thrive.